Hello and welcome to Minus the Hangover, the fortnightly NoLo drinks podcast that reaches the parts other podcasts can't reach. With me, Christophe Phillips.
And me, Pete Mason.
Every episode, we taste and review 3 different NoLo drinks. And if you're wondering what sort of drinks we cover here at Minus the Hangover, well, as the name suggests, it's any drink with either no alcohol or very low alcohol content. But not fizzy pop, as it were, or even the watery orange squash you had at primary school. Ooh, the horror. No, it's any drink with low or no alcohol that's clearly aimed at adults. So essentially, everything from beers, ciders and wines to kombuchas, tonics and mocktails. And, I think that just about covers it, Pete.
There are myriad drinks out there which are kind of suitable for us. So actually, literally, there's probably about 10,000. So it's going to take us 3 per episode. I'm not going to do the maths, but I'm sure our listeners could.
Well, we heard my math skills in, I think, episode 2, and I'm dreadful. So I'm going to say 1,000,000 billion years to get through them all.
Sounds plausible.
Something like that. So what drinks have we got this week?
We are drinking Corona Cero, which is a 0% British ale. We're also looking at Corona Cero, not zero. It's, I think, Spanish for zero, I imagine. And that's from Mexico. So our first kind of New World beer from that kind of perspective.
Interesting. Yeah, and we'll also be trying Italian bitter orange aperitivo Crodino, which actually is the first of our listener suggestions. So big thanks to Pippa Simpson for suggesting it, and indeed for providing us with a few bottles to sample. Freebies, always very welcome.
We love free stuff, I think it's fair to say. So, yeah, thank you, Pippa, for that. And indeed, if any other listeners either want to give us free samples or free suggestions, do feel free. Similarly, if you are a producer of a drink that you think that we would be interested in, please do get in touch. You stand a chance of actually getting your product reviewed on here by us a little bit quicker as well. If you're interested in that, do email us at hello@minusthehangover.com or just check out our socials, which are Minus the Hangover, all one word.
But that's not all, Pete. That's not all, because as you know, each week we take a deep dive on a particular aspect of the NoLo drinks industry. Now, last week I suggested we call that segment Popping the Cork. And what did you do with that suggestion? You ridiculed it, Pete, publicly in front of everybody.
I think ridicule's a strong word. I merely pointed out that perhaps some listeners of a certain mindset might associate it with possibly a euphemism for something. So
very possibly.
I've got to be honest, that's kind of the first thing that came to mind for me.
OK, look, I've decided, therefore, that our feature segment shall henceforth, amid much fanfare, should be known as The Big Chat. Does that pass muster, Pete? Any ridiculing to be done?
Yeah, it sounds very Ron Seal, but I like Ron Seal names for things because
don't drink it though. Don't drink Ron Seal.
Yeah, we will not be reviewing Ron Seal on a future episode of the podcast. I think it's fair to say, unless they come out with a NoLo beer or something, in which case, yeah.
And if it's free to us, who knows? Who knows?
Indeed.
Okay. So this week on The Big Chat, as promised, I'm going to be taking us on a walk through the ages with a look at the history of NoLo drinks. Part 1.
Oh, part 1. So what you're saying is there's more than one part to this?
There is. Now,
wow.
It wasn't my intention kind of when I came up with it as a topic, but as I got into the subject, I realised there's actually quite a bit to unearth here. So I'll be kind of splitting the story into 2 parts, with part 2 continuing next episode.
I was kind of hoping there'd be parts 3, 4 and 5 and Rise and Fall of the Roman Empire, kind of, lots of volumes, Encyclopedia Britannica style-y.
Let's find out, because there's still time. I haven't actually written part 2. When I do write that up, I might realise, it needs to be in 3 parts. We'll find out. All that coming up. But first, Pete, what's the first of our drinks today?
So today we're going to look at Corona Cero first of all. Corona Cero, our first drink of today's podcast. So Doom Bar, it is a familiar term to many people, many pub goers in the UK. If you like kind of traditional British bitters and ales, then this is something that you'll see in standard form on the bar of many pubs up and down the land. In terms of the Zero product itself, they describe it as an amber ale, so essentially a kind of UK bitter. It was launched in 2020. You can buy it in 500ml bottles, and the branding I quite like on the bottle as well. So on the label, it's called Dunbar Zero, Zero. It's underlined, it's very clear. On the neck of the bottle, you've got a 0.0% kind of label as well. It's very clear that it's not standard Dunbar.
That's right. It's very front and centre, isn't it? But obviously it's still got the Dunbar name front and centre too. So they are standing it side by side against their standard Dunbar. And we've talked about this in some of the previous episodes. This is a thing that happens. So will it stand up against the standard version?
One of the things I like about making it kind of very kind of upfront and centre in terms of Zero is that it's very hard to kind of confuse on a supermarket shelf, which I think I have done in the past, and I'm sure other people have as well. Should we open it up and have a taste?
I think we should.
Let's do it. So it pours into the glass very nicely. It is quite a deep amber colour. There's quite a nice kind of foamy head on it as well. It's quite a thick head. It looks like it's going to be hanging around for quite some time.
Yeah, it does. It definitely looks the part. The colour's really inviting, I think. It's almost a bit like cola. It's quite kind of caramelly brown.
So in terms of the smell, immediately there's kind of malt, there's caramel. It smells quite sweet, I think.
Very sweet, I think, yeah.
Almost it smells like unfermented beer. Before you ferment beer, it is very, very sweet. And yeah, that smells quite similar. So let's go in for a taste. To me, that doesn't taste as sweet as it smells, which is kind of bizarre. But here we go. It's got a reasonable amount of body. It's a little bit thin, I think. And there is a touch of sweetness there. It tastes like a bitter that's not too bitter, malty, a little bit kind of toasty. There's a little bit of fruit flavours from the hops. A touch of spice I can taste.
Occasionally, when you drink an ale, and this can be an alcoholic version as well, you get a kind of slightly soapy taste. And I'm getting a bit of soapiness coming through with this, and it's not particularly pleasant. It's not awful. It's not like you got a bar of soap in your mouth. But for me, it's slightly there. Everything else works for me. Like you say, it smells sweet, but it doesn't taste super sweet. It's quite balanced. It is a little bit thin on the body, but there is, for me, that little bit of soapiness.
It's definitely something that people can sometimes taste in different kind of drinks or foods. I'm not really kind of getting that at all, but I think it's quite nice. I actually tried this yesterday as well. We were actually recording this in the morning. I actually had it yesterday evening, and it tastes quite different to me. As we said in our first episode, in fact, your taste kind of change all the time, even from day to day or time of day or what you're thinking about. So kind of yesterday this tasted a lot thinner to me, and this morning I actually prefer it almost. So maybe this is a breakfast beer for me. Who knows?
Well, one thing that I'm getting through that is very much a positive is that there's a really lovely kind of caramelisation to it. It coats my mouth really nicely. It means it's not super refreshing, but do you go to an amber ale for that anyway? It's quite comforting. It's quite warming, even though it's chilled. And again, that's something we've touched on in the past as well. So I don't know.
Oh, have you had it in the fridge then?
I have, yes. I chilled it.
Ah, okay. I had mine in for about 45 minutes or an hour. Basically, I was aiming for around about kind of cellar temperature, which is around 12 to 14 degrees. There are no serving instructions, incidentally, on the side of the bottle. So it is absolutely kind of up to the individual. But I wanted this kind of not at room temperature, which at the moment is like 22 degrees or something. It's quite warm.
It's a hot day.
It is. But then I didn't want it at fridge temperature as well, which would be more kind of like between 4 and 6. So you're drinking it at between 4 and 6 degrees. I'm drinking it, I'm guessing, at more like 14-ish degrees.
Okay. Well, it's interesting, actually, because, I would always buy these straight off the shelf, not find them in the fridge, but I would always put them in the fridge. Interesting. Maybe that's changed it, and maybe that's where the soapiness is coming through. Maybe the chilledness of it has suppressed some of the other flavours, letting that soapiness poke out. I don't know.
It's definitely a thing that flavour is determined in a very large way by temperature. So obviously lagers you want cold, they're served cold in every circumstance out of the fridge on the bar. Traditional ales like this, if you had it from a pub, as I say, 12 to 14 degrees. So bottles aren't the same as cask ale, I think it's fair to say. And to be honest, is there a correct way of serving it? No, it's all personal taste.
Yeah, and it's funny, actually, even though I'm saying about this soapiness coming through, I've just poured myself another beer. I quite like it. It is balanced. It's not as sweet as it smells. It's got a nice taste. But just for me, there's that little bit of soapiness.
In terms of kind of how it stands up to standard Doom Bar, I was thinking about buying a Doom Bar and not drinking it now, but drinking it, a couple of days ago. But I'm not actually that interested in whether or not it actually tastes like actual Doom Bar. Personally, I think that comparing beers directly is often a fool's errand. I think with things like Guinness, you can do that just because they've done an amazing job at replicating the actual thing, as close as they could possibly do, as far as I'm concerned.
And they very much stand them up against each other as like for like.
Yeah, absolutely. But with things like this, I'm not particularly interested. I want to look at this as a drink in its own right. And for me, as a drink in its own right, I actually think it works really well.
I'm slightly on the fence with it, I'm going to say. I actually like amber ales. I like the ale end of the spectrum. It tastes to me very thin, and I don't know if there's something else they could have done to improve the body, but I do find that lacking. And this soapiness is definitely there for me. So I'm mulling it over, and I'm not sure which way I'm going to go just yet.
So while you're mulling, let's have a look at the drink itself. It is in 500ml bottles, as I say. It is probably vegan. It's not labelled as being vegan, and frankly, it's unclear. So some retailers have got this drink listed as vegan, but not all of them do. I think it probably is, but if this matters to you, I would possibly steer clear. In terms of gluten-free, it's almost certainly not. Again, it's not labelled one way or the other, but it won't be. In terms of the ingredients, there's what you'd kind of expect. There's water, barley malt, sugar as an addition, which sometimes is there, sometimes it isn't. Oats, which will help with the body. Hops and hop extract as well. It's also got an antioxidant, which is ascorbic acid or vitamin C. So when I talk about this as being my breakfast beer, then, all the benefits are stacking up, quite frankly.
An apple a day or an amber ale a day. It's interchangeable. It's fine.
Absolutely. The final ingredient is quote-unquote natural flavours.
Yes.
Who knows?
Well, exactly. We've talked about this. I think we're going to address this at some point. But for now, shrug away because we don't know. In
terms of calories, if you care about this sort of thing, there are 65 in a 500ml bottle. So quite a bit less than a standard beer. Carbs, there are 3.2 grams per 100ml. Of which 1.1 grams are sugars. So per bottle, that's 5.5 grams, which is about 1.5 teaspoons of sugar. Price-wise, this is actually quite a positive thing. It's £2.15 in supermarkets, which is actually a lot less than Doom Bar is, the standard Doom Bar, which is often around £2.75. It's one of the more expensive kind of standard traditional British ales. So that's quite a significant difference. That's 60p. That's actually more than the difference in the duty costs. Yeah, so we've talked about that, haven't we? How often they price them like for like, but there's no real justification for that, or very small justification. And if you think about the amount that's being paid in the tax, in that duty, and take that away, that should bring you closer to it. So that's a real outlier then. It's cheaper than the duty, minus the duty, would suggest. On the Sharps website themselves, it works out as being about 30 pence per bottle cheaper. Oh, okay. For Doom Bar Zero. So again, very positive. In terms of Doom Bar itself, so it's a really kind of famous beer brand, a traditional ale brand in the UK. It was actually launched in the mid-90s by Sharps Brewery. And in fact, it is one of the biggest selling cask ales in the UK. On the back of the popularity and the success of Doom Bar, they're actually bought out by Molson Coors, who are a massive sort of Canadian-US multinational.
Oh, wow. Okay.
So now they're kind of part of the same stable of brands as Carling and Caffrey's and Recorderlig and Staropramen and Blue Moon.
I had no idea. No idea.
Possibly the biggest offender in this particular stable is Madri, which is this kind of fake Spanish lager you see every day nowadays, which I
come out of
refuse to
nowhere
buy.
and it's everywhere. Yeah.
Yeah. So in terms of thumbs up and thumbs down, what are your thoughts, Chris?
Okay. I think the mouthfeel is great. I think the general feel of it being an amber ale really works. But there's two big downsides for me. It's thin. There's no escaping it. The body isn't quite there in the way that I would want it and expect it to be for an amber ale. And I am getting this soapiness through. Nonetheless, I think the pluses outweigh the minuses. I think it's pretty good. So I am going to give this a thumbs up. I do think it works, but there's a couple of caveats to it.
I'm going to give it a thumbs up. I don't really detect any soapiness, but as we said before, taste is subjective. It is a little bit thinner than kind of standard ales, but like I don't think like that much by. And I think compared to other NoLo beers, it's got a reasonable amount of body. So given all that, I think it's a pretty good effort actually, and I am going to give it a thumbs up. So yes, 2 thumbs up for Doom Bar Zero. So now we are looking at Corona Cero, which is a Mexican lager brand. The beer itself is in a 330ml bottle. It is labelled as 0.0%, which is quite nice. And actually talking about labelled, the bottle itself is lovely. I really like Corona bottles. It doesn't have kind of like a label in a traditional sense. It's printed directly onto the glass.
It is. It's very snazzy. It's nice.
Yeah, no, it is nice. And in terms of the bottle itself, it's clear, which normally is kind of a big no-no with beer. Right, beer hates light. Like beer really, really, really hates light. So generally speaking, clear bottles, beer in it won't last as long. Green is better than clear, and then brown is better than green. What do you think's better than brown bottles?
I want to say still glass though. Still glass.
I'm not saying that.
Okay. Well, ceramic, amphorae, maybe.
Well, absolutely. And often when I pop down to the Tesco, I often see some clay amphorae.
Your Roman Tesco.
Absolutely. Cans.
Oh, cats. I mean, I'm being dim, of course. You can tell I've got a history segment coming up. I'm thinking very much in Roman terms.
Very good point. One of the reasons that I really like cans for beer is that basically they don't let any light in, and so beer will, in principle, last longer in there. But I digress. So yeah, this is Corona. It's often drunk with kind of a wedge of lime or lemon in the neck, isn't it? Which is a quite nice way of doing it. So I propose that we taste it as we normally would. So just basically pouring part of the bottle into the glass, giving it a good sniff, good taste. But then going back and just at the end of it, basically just sticking a wedge of lime in there and drinking it as you might want to on a beach on a hot sunny day somewhere.
Yeah, let's do it.
Okay, let's open it up.
Well, pouring it certainly looks the part. It's got a really good head.
It's really well carbonated. It's goldeny, kind of like straw colour.
It's a beautiful colour, really.
Yeah.
Almost kind of honey coloured. Really lovely.
I can already smell it before I even put my nose into the glass.
It really lifts off, doesn't it? I mean, it smells like a Corona. It smells like a lager, but a very crisp one. It's not overly sweet. It's
crisp and it's clean as well. It's a little bit of malt. I can already smell the citrus, even though we have not gone anywhere near a lime. In terms of taste, wow, that's really good. Crikey. I'm not sure I'd be able to tell the difference in a blind taste test between that and a normal Corona. I know I said before about sometimes it's not a good idea to compare like for like, but actually I'm almost shocked by that. This is genuinely the first time I've had a Corona Cero.
Same for me. I'm I'm completely on the same page as you. That is genuinely very difficult to tell apart. The only part of the tasting process that I can really detect it is in the aftertaste, where it doesn't have that kind of slightly alcoholic punch that you get in your aftertaste from a normal Corona. All the other steps, all the way through, the mouthfeel, the body, the taste, the way it's refreshing, it hits the back of the tongue, the bitterness as it goes down, that is very good.
So it tastes, again, a bit citrusy. There's a bit of malt in there. There's definitely kind of that lagery kind of taste. And it is on the bitterer side of lagers, which I really, really like.
Yes, I like that too. I mean, I suppose this is one of the questions, isn't it? Do we like Corona? If it's emulating a Corona, do you like a Corona? I do.
Yeah, no, me too.
Okay, let's get into some of the stats.
I'm too busy enjoying the beer, quite frankly. What are we doing, a podcast? Right, so, yes, in terms of the beer itself, it probably is vegan. Again, unlabelled, and I can't really find any definitive sources online, but it probably is vegan. I would be confident drinking this as a vegan. Gluten-free, unlabelled, but it won't be. Ingredients are water, barley malt, maize, which is essentially corn, sugar, hops, and natural flavours, once again.
Our old friend, natural flavours. I
want to call it frenemy because I'm a bit wary, but no, to be fair, I really don't care. But I would like to know what they are. In terms of calories, there are 56 calories per 330ml bottle, so roughly on a par with other NoLo lagers. Carbs-wise, 12.8 grams per bottle with 2.1 grams of sugar, so half a teaspoon.
Wow. I mean, it's a smaller bottle as well, but it's that's pretty low.
If you care about sugar and it's something you want to avoid, then actually it's pretty good for that. Price-wise, it is £4.50 to £5 for 4 bottles. Okay. It's generally a bit cheaper than normal Corona. In terms of the brand itself, it's a Mexican brand. Yep. It's actually 100 years old this year. So
is it?
Yeah.
Wow. Okay.
It started out in 1925. And in Mexico, it's brewed and owned by a company called Grupo Modelo. And I'm sure I'm absolutely massacring the Spanish pronunciation or the Mexican Spanish pronunciation. So apologies to all our Mexican listeners. And indeed anyone in South America. Apart from Brazilians, because that's a different language. So it is also...
And it's not South America.
Brazil is?
No, but Mexico isn't.
Oh, God, no, you're absolutely right. Oh, dear. Yes, apologies to everyone in North, Central and South America.
He's come a cropper. He's still digging. That hole is getting bigger.
Right, that entire hemisphere I apologise to. So I think I'm safe there. So, but it is originally Mexican from North America, but it is exported to and brewed in various places around the world. So, like, it's brewed in China, it's brewed in various places, but a lot of it is actually brewed in Mexico, as far as I can make out.
Okay.
This Corona Cero, even though it's a Mexican brand, here in the UK, it's actually brewed in Belgium.
Ah, okay.
So, whatever, it doesn't really matter. It's more about what the beer is like and how much you enjoy it, and I'm really, really enjoying it.
Yeah. I've finished the glass of it very happily. I've got this lime wedge, so I think we should go in with that.
Oh yes, sticking the lime wedge in, and I've made the lime wedge slightly too big, so that's annoying, but that's definitely going to go in. I'm getting juice everywhere. I
mean, mine's gone in. It actually fell through as I drank it, but swigging straight from the bottle, I'm really getting the feel that this is a standard Corona. I think it balances really well, so the acidity of the lime really offsets some of the sweetness that's in the beer. I'm not saying it's an overly sweet lager, but it definitely changes the taste. But what is amazing is that it completely changes that aftertaste. It adds a little bit more zing to it, so I miss the alcohol even less. It was the one thing that I felt was missing a little bit as I drank it, just on the aftertaste, that the alcohol wasn't there. With the lime, kind of is. It really works.
I think it really works, and not only from a taste perspective, but also one of the ways that I think it's best to experience NoLo drinks is treating it in exactly the same way as you would the equivalent standard drink. So if you would normally have a standard Corona, you'd have it chilled from the fridge. If you want to put a wedge of lime in there, you do that. Do that for this as well. And yeah, it is essentially the same experience. So for that reason, I'm going to give it a resounding thumbs up.
Oh, me too. Easy. Add that lime in. It's a very easy thumbs up.
Great. So that is 2 very easy thumbs up for Corona Cero.
And I'm going to be finishing that one off as well. Lovely stuff. Okay, so now we're going to come to what I call, brand new, call the big chat, because I got told off what I called it before.
I never told you off. I just sniggered a little bit.
Yeah, you just ridiculed me for it. That's fine. Okay, so folks, we're going to be looking at the history of NoLo drinks. Now, the first thing to mention, this is very much from a European, actually largely British perspective. So I'll be excluding the curdled yak milks and ancient tea ceremonies of other cultures for now, with the hopes of returning to this topic with a wider scope in the future. Second thing to mention, I couldn't find much in the way of non-alcoholic drinks being made or drunk for pleasure before the Middle Ages. Not even references to orange or apple juice being drunk. Look, that's not to say they didn't drink them or that there wasn't an appetite for it, but I couldn't find a lot in the way of verifiable historical record. Now, again, there probably is lots out there, but to the level of digging that I did on this. And the problem is, without the alcohol in it, fruit juices obviously spoil, or if you've added honey to something, insects can get in it and spoil it that way, because there isn't the alcohol to deter them. So these drinks very much fall outside the idea of drink production. So what I mean by that, for example, the production of mead is ancient, made from honey with alcohol, but adding honey to water seems to have been done in the moment if the mood arose, but not in any full production sense of the word. So just to lay those things out. And also to clarify, milk was drunk, but it was seen as a food, and it spoils too fast to transport. Yeah. And water, well, look, so prized, of course, that the Romans developed their famous aqueducts. And water can be flavoured with berries or honey or juice, etc. But there was no real sense that I could find that doing so was a thing. Maybe people did it, but it didn't seem to have been a thing so much. There were also, of course, various teas that could be made. You can make tea out of any kind of herbaceous plant. But until modern times, in Europe at least, these seem to be mostly applied for medicinal or ritualistic or druidic purposes. But beyond this, drinking anything other than alcoholic drinks for pleasure seemed outside of their thinking, at least as far as I could find. I did find a couple of loose references. Pete, did you ever read the Asterix comics?
I did. I very much enjoyed them as well.
Oh, yes, me too.
Absolutely.
Big fan. So in those, the ancient Britons drank hot water with a spot of milk. Now, I didn't have to look that up. I just remembered that as being quite an oddity. And I'm not sure if it's accurate or not. I couldn't find anything on it.
No, I'm pretty sure that's the French having a dig at us for adding milk to our tea.
It might well be, yes. Exactly. But then again, maybe it's something that warmed up those ancient Britons and just changed water enough to feel like you're having something different. I don't know. And another glaring exception. In ancient Greek mythology, of course, ambrosia was the food or drink of the gods, believed to grant them immortality and eternal youth. So it was often described as a fragrant honey-flavoured substance. It didn't have alcohol in. It's never mentioned as being an alcoholic drink. It was also used as an ointment or perfume to anoint the gods, cleanse their bodies, and even preserve the dead. So let's be honest, that's a little outside the scope of your average NoLo drink.
Oh, I don't know. I mean, some of them are pretty nice.
So the story starts, or at least I think it gets interesting in the Middle Ages, with small beer. Pete, any ideas what small beer was?
I have an idea, and I know it's kind of like weak beer, basically, because it was not the stronger stuff that you might drink for entertainment purposes in the evening.
Yeah, I think that's a pretty good summation, actually. It's a normal beer process, but it's just made pretty weak. So what I found said typically less than 2.8% ABV, but could vary a little in that as well.
Yeah, we had a quick conversation about that earlier on because you flagged to me that 2.8% seems kind of a bit oddly precise when you're talking about kind of historical records of things.
Absolutely. Yeah.
They don't tend to say, oh, yes, this will be up to 2.8%. So, yes, I looked at the source of this, and I know Wikipedia says that small beer is kind of defined up to 2.8%. And it's kind of nonsense. I mean, that's straightforwardly not really kind of true. The great thing about Wikipedia is that they source all of their claims. Even if they're right or wrong, that's less important than it being sourced. So I followed a little source. It takes me to this 2017 article about this single particular UK brewery who are called Small Beer, as it turns out, who they're defining the ABV themselves for their own beers. In other words, they're saying, we're going to make small beer and all of our beers are going to be 2.8% ABV or lower. And then someone at Wikipedia has decided, oh, that's what small beer means, up to 2.8%. And it's not, it's nonsense. And if I could really be bothered, if I was that outraged, I would go on and edit Wikipedia. But, I'd rather complain about it on a podcast.
Exactly. No, I think you're absolutely right to flag it up. And it's something that jumped out as being weirdly specific to me. Like you say, it's nonsense. It was weak. And if it was seen as weak in comparison to the other things that were made, that was good enough to call it small beer. Are we happy with that as a kind of definition, Pete?
Yeah, weak beer, absolutely, yes.
There you go. Let's go with that. So the thing with small beer was it was generally seen as safer than water. So it's less polluted, there's less feces and parasites in it, and it's available in towns and cities where a ready water supply wasn't. Crucially, because even though it's got not a lot of alcohol in, that level of alcohol it does have makes it sterile. So it means it's easier to transport and things like that, which keeps away all the bugs and the nasties out of it. To compare that to some other things that were available, milk is expensive and not readily available for many, and you only get a small quantity per cow, so you need a kind of large area to produce. It doesn't keep, there was no refrigeration, and it's not refreshing in the same way anyway, and like I said, it's kind of a food. But milk is not always healthy. Until pasteurisation, milk, raw milk, that is, was seen as fairly risky to anyone not living on the farm it had come from. So people just generally didn't drink it once they'd moved away. Other alternatives like wine, etc., can be too expensive. Again, you need grapes to grow in warmer climes. You need to bring it over, transport it. It's a longer process and it takes quite a lot of effort to do all of that. It's quite expensive. So people certainly did drink water, and they understood that water could be good or bad, but this was limited to smell and flavour. So the folk in olden times who could afford it would pay for good, clean water as their kind of non-alcoholic drink. So why drink small beer? Well, I'm going to shock you, Pete. I'm going to ask you a question. At the end of the Middle Ages and into the modern era, so kind of Henry VIII onwards or Elizabeth I onwards, what costs more if you live in a city, water or beer?
My natural instinct would obviously be to say water, but for the sake of the episode, I'm going to say what costs more? Beer.
Well, it's funny. There's no clear answer to it. It seems they were kind of...
damn you.
I know, exactly. They were kind of about the same. But the thing is, if you've got the choice between having water or beer, you might drink water sometimes, but you're also going to drink a lot of beer. So they kind of stand up next to each other.
Yeah, sure.
Let's break that down a little bit. Water costs money in major cities because it isn't fresh. You have to carry it, you have to transport it. It's not coming straight from a spring, or not often. And the rivers, get a bit mucky and all of that. Beer, you can make it where you make it, keep it, store it, it's sterile, you can transport it. And look, beer gets you a little bit drunk, sure, but it's also loaded with calories, so it's a dietary supplement. Some reports of this beer, even small beer, have it that it was the consistency of porridge. So not really what we have in mind about being beer, but that also means that there are some vitamins in it, although vitamins weren't known about at the time. And even if it is that kind of consistency, it has a taste, and water can get boring pretty quick. So it tastes nice as a kind of summary of it. Fast forward to the Industrial Revolution. Now, I'm going to be jumping around a little bit in time just to cover it all. But with the Industrial Revolution, you get more people living in towns because they've been displaced from the countryside because of mechanised farm machinery. People come to live in towns. You get a big population boom. There's no land for cows, so you're not getting so much milk in cities. You get limited fresh water supply because the water supply remains the same with lots of people living there or very few people living there. But you definitely get more increased pollutants in the water supply the more people you get. Poor sanitation. Now, there's something that people often cite about this period in the Industrial Revolution, that it was a law, or that there were several laws enforcing that children had to drink beer, or people had to feed children beer. I couldn't actually find any examples of that being true. It seems to be one of those kind of common myths that we have about that period. They were permitted to drink beer if it was weak, and sure, if the only source of hydration would be beer, then that's better than not giving them any at all. So I'm sure there was pressure that if you had a child workforce, give them beer rather than let them die of thirst. But actual laws making kids drink beer, no, I couldn't find anything on that. And I might be wrong. There might be things out there. There's a lot of digging that would need to be done to get a definitive answer. So what's the problem? Why not drink beer? Why look for a NoLo alternative? And I'm going to keep coming back to that question. So there's lots of factors, actually, looking through history from the Middle Ages onwards. You get the Puritans in the 1600s, but mostly, that was a kind of flash in the pan thing. Not to King Charles I, but, after a while, things started calming down a little bit. They're very hardline views. And let's be honest, drinking nothing but water is pretty boring.
Indeed.
There are other alternatives. Coffee came to England in the mid-17th century, arriving as early as the mid-16th century and being sold in the first coffee house in London by 1652. Tea, initially a novelty introduced in the 1650s, quickly grew in popularity, particularly after Catherine of Braganza, who was the wife of King Charles II, endorsed the drink in 1662, leading to increased imports and eventual widespread adoption. But there's a good thing and a bad thing inherent to both tea and coffee. Pete, any ideas what?
So in terms of why you would pick tea or coffee over beer, I can think of a couple of things. If you're relying on beer, even small beer, for most of your hydration, it's alcoholic. Even if you had kind of 2% beer or something, and that's what you drank throughout the day, you can feel the effects of it. And I wonder kind of, back in the day, if everyone was all wandering around a little bit drunk.
Oh, I think they were.
It would explain why everyone was so fighty back in the day. If you look at some accounts, are kind of like people just like starting fights for really quite random reasons. So I think one of the reasons you might choose tea or coffee is because actually it's got the opposite effect. It's not like a fighty juice. It's kind of the opposite. Tea and coffee make you alert because of the caffeine. So I can see why you'd want to pick tea or coffee over beer in that sense. In terms of minuses, I don't know, taxation?
Well, okay, interesting. It wasn't taxed as far as I could find. The answer I was looking for is that it's got caffeine in it. Now, caffeine, as you alluded to, it makes you alert and things like that, but it also keeps you awake. So you can't be drinking it late into the night and then expect to go to sleep and get up early and work and all of those things. So look, there's a plus and a minus, and it means that for the very reason that people choose it is also the reason it didn't completely displace what had come before.
Yes.
So I'm going to jump forward slightly in time to the Victorian era because I want to talk about how there was these very large kind of factories or mills, and there's a lot of people operating machinery. Now, you hinted at this problem, people getting drunk. Now, if people are slightly tipsy all the time, if they then start topping that up by, really purposefully going out drinking booze, you get a lot of antisocial behaviours. Now, interestingly, people didn't really care about the fights or anything like that. Do what you like. What they cared about was if you worked 6 days a week and then Saturday night you went out and got drunk and you drank all day Sunday because it was less easy to enforce going to church all day. By the time Monday morning rolled around, you were still drunk and you fell in the machines and you broke the machines and disrupted productivity.
Which is what is the important aspect of it. We cannot stop the factories.
Yes, that's right.
Workers are expendable.
So a few things started to happen out of this. And I don't want to get drawn too much into it as a side note, but one of the reasons that football, or rather association soccer, took off and was really codified and formalised and given the backing by so many rich people and towns was because the leagues were held on Sunday, which meant that you didn't want to go out on Saturday night and get horribly drunk, and you weren't going to drink all day on Sunday because you're burning some of it off. It meant that things could carry on better on Monday morning. So we also have soccer to blame and to thank for kind of helping this part in the story. So, okay, jumping forward. 1920s to 1930s, you get the temperance movement post-war. So my grandparents actually signed up for the temperance movement, apparently. Now, this was where lots of people just sort of swore off alcohol. They'd seen the problems with it, particularly post-war. A lot of people fell into it and, for very valid reasons, but it had caused a lot of social problems because there were a lot of social problems after the First World War. So you do get this shift in alcohol, the way it's being seen by society, as starting to be seen as a problem. You also get other drugs coming through. So you get laudanum, cocaine, opium that had been used in the Victorian era, but alcohol started to be connected to a gateway drug for them. In the 1930s, you get prohibition in the US, you get the cocktail movement. Now, I call it a movement because really what it was cheap booze that used other flavours to mask it, but it became a movement because it opened up the way that people thought about alcohol and how it could be flavoured. Suddenly, fruity flavours and non-beer bitter flavours could be nice or were accepted. In the 1940s, there's enough to worry about in the world without stressing over alcohol consumption. And to be honest, who could begrudge some people enjoying a little drink during the war and especially after the war? People really relaxed their thinking on it. But by the 1950s, drinking habits had largely returned to normal, as in what they had been kind of before the war. But a new generation starts to emerge with a brand new word to describe them. Pete, any idea what that word is that had never been used before?
In the 50s?
Yes.
I don't know.
It's a word that we all know, we all use.
Teenagers.
You're absolutely right. And it's weird to think that teenagers as a thing didn't exist. But of course you were a kid and then you went to work. You were a child and you were an adult. National service seemed to be the bit in the middle that kind of was the dividing line. And of course, with that ending in the I want to say the 50s, or possibly into the 60s, that definitely saw the end of this idea that you're a child and then an adult. Teenagers started to occupy this new area. So by the 1960s, we now got this new generation of, they're really turning away from the old ways of their parents and they're looking for alternatives, not to necessarily avoid alcohol, but to expand their minds in different ways. They just wanted different experiences. They wanted to make the world their own. So drugs, specifically psychotropics and cannabis, really started coming in. They'd actually started in the 50s, really. But it took off in the 60s with counterculture and the hippie movement. And if you're wondering what all this has to do with NoLo drinks, it will become clear in just a minute. Because as that generation of counterculture misfits aged and, dare I say, grew up and got responsible, they started to look for ways to continue their now strong tradition of socialising. But they didn't want the hangovers that came with that. So minus the hangover. For the first time in history, we have a generation who go in search en masse for non-alcoholic options that feel adult, or as we now know them, NoLo drinks. So look, we're a few generations on from the introduction of colas and lemonades and things like that, which had already become associated with kind of childhood because they're so sweet. And like anything, any moment in time, any movement, it coincides with lots of other things that happened, other innovations. So there were improvements to the road system and haulage, kind of during the war and afterwards, even international shipping, meaning there was farther reach for products. And if you were a producer, you could get it out to further places, which means you can sell it to more people, which means you get economies of scale in production. You also have international holidays becoming a thing. So to the general population, new flavours, new traditions, such as the Italian aperitivo, as we'll see in the next review on Crodino. You get improvements in production, particularly with the introduction of plastics and improvements in the chemical industries. I'm talking about drinks production here. So things could really move from being a kind of cottage industry to on an industrial scale. And you also get improvements in farming with pesticides, modern pesticides, larger, more efficient farm machinery and better methods, meaning cheaper ingredients. So, as with all great leaps forwards, lots happened at the same time that enabled it. Now, what we get is some early adopters in the 1960s, including Crodino in 1965. I'll come on to that in that review. And other exotic flavours started appearing. So, Pete, picture a 1970s dinner party.
I'd rather not.
Yeah, exactly. I don't think you'll get far without thinking of cheese with pineapple or pineapple juice, grapefruit juice. These are the sorts of flavours that opened up and really became, quite exotic at the time that we now look back on and think, what? Why?
Well, I'm also thinking of all sorts of horrible foods preserved in gelatin and moulded,
yes,
like fish or whatever.
What was that about? Anyway, that's a subject for another day.
Or for never.
for never, very possibly. Look, for the first time, these kinds of flavours were available for mass consumption in the UK. Pineapples had come over in the Victorian era or even before, but for mass consumption, these kind of flavours were the new thing. And weirdly, what makes a return at the same time? Back from the 1930s, cocktails as well. For that same reason. So you get, these new flavours coming in and you get alcohol. Let's put them together. You get those fruity, non-beer bitter flavours. But like I said, as this generation, this kind of generation that was the post-war, wanted something different, wanted to claim the world or make it in their own image, if you like. As they grew up and had kids and responsibilities, there started being a need, a market need and a social need for non-alcoholic alternatives. And it's not long after this we see the very first NoLo beer launch onto the British market. Any ideas, Pete? What would be the very first beer on the British market?
There's kind of an obvious answer that comes to mind, and that is Caliber.
Oh, it's not Caliber.
No!
It's not. I know.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah. So the very first NoLo drink in the UK was Barbican. It's an alcohol-free lager launched by the brewery Bass in the 1980s.
Okay.
Now, while not initially successful due to poor taste and presentation...
What?
I know.
I'm genuinely shocked.
But its introduction did mark a key early attempt at mainstream alcohol-free beverages being available in the UK. And yes, other early examples that came out pretty hot on its heels were indeed Caliber and one called St. Christopher that I'm not familiar with, actually.
No.
So it's here that we'll pick up the history of NoLo drinks on the next episode, taking the story from the 1980s onwards with the launch of Barbican, St. Christopher, and yes, even the much maligned Caliber, through the changing social and drinking culture of the 1990s and into what I will very grandly, and showing my age here, call the modern era of NoLo drinks, charting their meteoric rise, a rise that has seen the mass proliferation of styles, an explosion of availability, not just on a dusty, forgotten shelf in a pub, but often on tap and certainly in every supermarket across the land, and the veritable exponential improvement in taste and quality, the likes of which has never been tasted before, all of which, of course, eventually led to perhaps the pinnacle of NoLo-themed, nay, human achievement, the creation of this very podcast, minus the hangover. Dun, dun, dun.
I think that's absolutely a fair and level-headed judgment on the importance of this podcast. I don't know why you're laughing, quite frankly.
I mean, I even put in my notes, too much? Well, you know what?
I don't think so.
There's all that and more to be continued and indeed concluded, we hope, next episode. But you can see, Pete, why I had to split it into two parts, at least two parts.
That's a very sensible place to put the pause on that particular story. Yes, very good, very interesting.
Good stuff. Well, there we go. For now, though, we're going to turn our attention back to what we do in this podcast, reviewing drinks, and we've got our third and final drink of the day, Crodino, coming up next. Okay, so the third and final drink we're going to be trying today is Crodino. Now, this is an Italian orange bitter drink. It's 0 alcohol. It's a small bottle, 10 centilitres. It's very attractive, almost a kind of teardrop-shaped bottle. It is non-alcoholic, light orange in colour, or kind of golden orange. It's got 15 grams of sugar per 100 mils. Now, one thing to bear in mind with this, it's not readily available in supermarkets, but it can be found easily online. So prices vary from £10 for 10, and honestly, from there, it skyrockets up. You get some vendors who are very, very expensive. Now, just before we open it up, the website goes to great pains to kind of lay this out as an Italian ritual. And I think it's worth kind of following this for a couple of reasons. So they call it an aperitivo, an aperitif. Now, this ritual, it's the moment of the day when the sun sets and you just chill out with some positive energy and your favourite people. So claim the extremely attractive people on the website. You can have one in the bar of your choice or at home, wherever you feel most relaxed. In the end, it's a great occasion to see your friends or meet new people, to have a laugh or just listen to some music. A non-alcoholic aperitif, Pete, has no rules.
Well, that's good to know, because I was afraid of breaking the law somehow by having it by myself in the morning.
So the right way to drink Crodino? Just follow these 4 simple steps. Step 1, fill the goblet with ice. Do you have a goblet to hand?
I was going to say, there's quite an important step 0 here, which is buy a goblet.
Yes. And buy the drink.
Yeah, okay.
Drink.
Step -1, buy the drink. Step 0, buy the goblet. Okay, then step 1. So no, I don't have a goblet, unfortunately.
Exactly. I mean, maybe it's just a translation thing, but fill the goblet with ice. Step 2, pour in Crodino. Step 3, add a slice of fresh orange. Step 4, for more bubbles, add a splash of soda. Enjoy. Now, look, I'm not going to add the orange or the bubbles because we want to taste it in its own right. But does it suggest, therefore, that it might be lacking, that you need to add more orange, that you need more fizz? I don't know. So I think that was a pretty good place for us to open it up and give it a try.
Oh, you know what? That looks very orange. That reminds me of Iron Brew. In terms
I was
of
going to say
visual
Iron Brew
appeal.
or Lucozade, actually.
Yes.
So it's not as dark as Aperol, actually. But on the smell, it has a very similar smell. Very citrus.
It smells delicious.
It does smell delicious. It smells bitter, and I'm not sure if bitter is a smell, but it kind of does.
No, it does. To me, it smells of bitter orange very, very strongly.
Now, you're getting quite a lot, I think, a kind of herby quality to it as well. I don't know if that's going to be the botanicals.
No, that smells absolutely lovely. On the taste...
Yeah.
Oh, that's quite punchy.
It is.
It's very sweet, but then you'd expect it to be when, 15% of it is sugar. That's really herbal. That's very bitter orange.
Yep.
There's a lot of bitterness, which is great because there's a lot of sweetness as well. I really like sweet and bitter at the same time, and this is really hitting that spot for me.
Yeah, same for me, actually. It reminds me slightly of that very herby end of the spectrum, alcoholic drinks like Jägermeister, things like that. There's definitely a herby quality, but don't be put off by that if that's not what you like, because that's only an element of the taste, and it's there and it's sort of sunk almost in the aftertaste. What you get first off is that sweetness and that bitterness fighting against each other in a really complex way. Really nice.
It is really nice, and it's very, very punchy, and it's very strongly flavoured. Now, I am very happy drinking this by itself.
It would be really nice with non-alcoholic gin or any kind of spirit like that, because the bitterness is there. I think there's a lot you could do with this.
I'd look actually mixing it with something like Prosecco.
Yes.
Which is nice and cheap, and actually I think that would go really well with this. So actually I'm going to do that at some point. Maybe not now, because unfortunately I don't have a bottle of Prosecco in my fridge, but I do live near the supermarket, so maybe.
I think it's going to be a really refreshing drink on a summer's day, actually.
Yeah.
Okay, so there's 15 high-quality ingredients, it says. There's herbs, spices and roots, including cardamom, cloves, coriander and nutmeg. And that's what gives the fragrances and the unique taste, it says. But they also say they have added botanicals that are extracted according to traditional methods, unchanged since its creation in, and you expect it to be the Middle Ages or something, no, 1965. Right. So it's not an ancient drink, it's quite a modern drink. This drink in particular, Crodino, was acquired by the Campari Group in 1995. It's very like Campari, but obviously without the alcohol. And it seems at that point that it went international. On their website, the timeline then jumps to 2022, as if that's the peak of modern civilization and nothing has come after that. I don't know why. It's probably when the website was last updated, but it's slightly odd that they very specifically get to 2022 and you can enjoy it. It's worth mentioning there's also a couple of variations of the brand as well. There's Crodino Rosso, which is a blood orange variant. We might try that another time. And then I found that there's one called Crodino Twist with agrumi, and I Googled it because my language skills are rubbish, which is citrus fruits, which is already made from citrus fruits. And weirdly, that product you can get, but it's not listed on their website as a product. So I don't know what's going on with that.
No, sure.
But there you go. That is Crodino. It is, I would say, a non-alcoholic version of Aperol. Sweeter, slightly less bitterness going on. But pretty good, I think. What do you think, Pete? What are you going for? Thumbs up, thumbs down?
I think it's really, really good. I think it works like this to sip, bearing in mind it is very, very strong tasting. And I can absolutely imagine it as a longer drink as well with some sparkling water in, or something like Prosecco. I would buy it. Thumbs up.
I think it's getting warmer in my glass. I didn't load my goblet with ice as instructed. And
amateurs.
I think it's less nice as it gets warmer. It is nicer when it's colder and crisper. So I can see why they suggest it like that. But I think it's very good for a hot, sunny summer's day, hanging out with friends, sipping something nice. And it really is convincing as a non-alcoholic version of other things you might be familiar with, like Aperol. It's a resounding thumbs up from me. Really nice.
Excellent. So that is 2 thumbs up then for Crodino.
So there you have it, folks. Episode 5 of Minus the Hangover, and one where we took a walk not only through the history of NoLo drinks, but a walk on the wild side. Italian style, Mexican style, and, Cornish style, which I suppose is wild in a Daphne du Maurier kind of way. We also at this point would like to say, if you are a producer of NoLo drinks and would like us to review your drinks, please do get in touch. We are open to freebies, as has been spelled out on many occasions through this this episode.
Not to belabour the point.
As ever as well, please do follow us on Spotify, Apple Music, or wherever you get your podcasts, and please do spread the word. You can find us on X/Twitter, Blue Sky, Instagram, Facebook, Reddit, Linktree, all the socials. Just search for @MinusTheHangover, all one word. So, thinking of next week, what's in store, Pete?
We will be trying 3 drinks as per usual. The first one is going to be St. Peter's Without Gold, which is a 0% golden ale. We also have Saint Omer Panache, or Panache. I'm not quite sure. There's a little accent on the final E. I would call it Panache, and so I'm going to. And that is a lager shandy that's available in many, many supermarkets.
Shandy or Radler, I read, so...
Well, if you want to be slightly posh, you say Radler, because that's sort of the trendy way of doing it. Whereas, it's a shandy, isn't it? It's like lager and lemonade, essentially. And finally, there's going to be J2O, White Peach and Mango Daiquiri.
And of course, I'll be following up with the concluding, we hope, part of the origins of NoLo drinks, picking up where we left off in the 1980s and the dawn of the modern era of NoLos. And what a bright dawn it turned out to be, but not without the odd storm cloud along the way. So plenty to discover there, I kid you not. So there we go. Thanks for joining us once again at Minus the Hangover with me, Christophe Phillips.
And me, Pete Mason.
And we hope you can join us next time. Till then, have a great week and enjoy whatever drink takes your fancy. Minus the hangover. Oh, look at that. Nice. Both at the same time.
Unrehearsed, genuinely.
Cheers now, folks. Take care. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Hello again, and yes, this is our extra segment that we like to call After Hours, where we look back on the episode and share any thoughts that we might have. First thing to say, well, thank you for listening. But of course, sorry that I missed last week's After Hours. And thanks, Pete, for stepping up. Was it all right without me?
It was absolutely fine. I mean, if anything, slightly better from my perspective. You know?
So harsh. Well, look,
it felt lonely. It felt lonely without you, Chris.
Don't butter me up. No one's buying it. As Pete said, yes, my computer wasn't feeling very well, and I can report that it's feeling much better now, having had a battery-ectomy and a charging port-ectomy.
Oh, my word.
It's fixed now, but it was in the shop quite a while. But we're back to rights, so all is right with the world. There are a couple of little things I want to address from this episode, Pete. I know it was your review on the Doom Bar Zero, but when I came to look at some of the details to add on for, all the back-end stuff we have to do with listing the episode, I noticed that the Sharps website, shock horror, doesn't list Doom Bar Zero as one of their products. What are they doing?
Yeah, it's a real shame. It's just not there.
It's completely absent, and it's almost like they're treating the NoLo drink as a poor relation, and we won't stand for it. Come on, Sharps, I'm calling you out, and I'm saying put your NoLo front and centre. It got thumbs up from us, so it's a good product.
Yeah, absolutely. And if it gets, our seal of approval, then obviously...
What more do you need in life?
This is it.
Okay, there was another aspect we wanted to get into, and this comes down to the review I sort of championed, which was on Crodino. Talk us through it.
We essentially reviewed the imported version of Crodino, which I think is kind of the original one. And what we didn't know at the time is that there's kind of a version, but it appears to be different, that's available in the UK in supermarkets, kind of noticeably Sainsbury's and Waitrose.
Yes, that's right.
But they're different size bottles. So the one we had was 100ml, which was teeny tiny, hobbit sized. And the one that's in the supermarket is 175ml. We know that the ingredients are different because the one that we had was essentially an incredible amount of sugar. It was like 15 grams for 100ml and no artificial sweeteners. And the one in Sainsbury's has got 4.4 grams of sugar and 2 artificial sweeteners. And then also the colours are different as well. So it's definitely different, but we're not really sure how.
No. And the thing is, as we mentioned in the episode, the version of Crodino we reviewed was given to me by one of our listeners, my friend Pippa Simpson, and I know that she orders that in. So it is available, but through ordering online. But if you were to go to the shop, we just wanted to flag it up because what you might find in Sainsbury's and Waitrose and possibly some other shops is a spritz version. So it's bigger, it's watered down, but with kind of fizzy water. So
well, we think it is. We're not actually entirely sure. So we are going to find out importantly.
Exactly. That's what I'm kind of circling. We are going to get hold of some and we are going to taste it. We're maybe not going to do a full review of it because it might be so similar to the version we've already reviewed that we don't need to, but we will report back. So bear with us and watch this space.
So this episode goes out on Thursday, the 2nd of October, which is, of course, Sober October, the second day. So yes. I know you and I aren't actually partaking this year. Maybe we will next, I don't know. But a big good luck to everybody who is doing it. I'm sure you do well.
Yeah, absolutely. Wishing you well, folks, and I hope you get everything out of it that you want to. It's a nice thing to do, and why not?
So I think that's all I've got for this After Hours. How about you, Chris?
I think that's everything from me. So thanks, everyone, for listening, and we'll see you soon.
Cheers.
Bye-bye.